It was a bright and beautiful morning on Farmer Joe's farm. The sun was rising over the hills, casting a warm golden glow over the fields, and the animals were beginning to wake up. Among them was Lenny, a young and playful lamb who was always full of energy. He loved to bounce around the meadow, enjoying the fresh air and the freedom to explore. Farmer Joe walked out of his farmhouse, as he did every morning, to greet the animals. He was a kind man, always taking good care of them. As he passed by Lenny, he smiled at the sight of the little lamb jumping around happily. But there was work to be done on the farm, and everyone had their part to play. While the older animals were busy with their tasks, Lenny couldn't help but think that work seemed boring. He was too young, too full of excitement, to worry about the duties of farm life. After all, playing was much more fun than working, wasn't it? Nearby, Maggie, the wise old cow, stood calmly chewing her grass. She had lived on the farm for many years and knew that everyone had an important role to play. Though Lenny didn't realize it yet, helping out made the farm run smoothly and made everyone happier. Lenny, however, wasn't so sure. He felt small and wondered how someone as young as him could possibly help. He preferred to leave the hard work to the others and continue his fun-filled adventures around the farm. As Lenny wandered around, he spotted Charlie, the mischievous chicken, sneaking toward the barn. Charlie was always getting into trouble, and today was no different. He was heading into the barn, hoping to find some leftover corn to snack on. Charlie glanced over at Lenny, his eyes gleaming with mischief. Lenny was curious. He wanted to know what Charlie was up to, but deep down he felt a little unsure. Should he follow Charlie into the barn? The barn was Farmer Joe's special place, and Lenny wasn't sure they were allowed inside. But the temptation to have fun was too strong. Ignoring his doubts, Lenny decided to join Charlie. Together they snuck into the barn, their tiny hooves and claws clattering against the wooden floor. Inside, it was dark and quiet, and for a moment, Lenny felt a rush of excitement. But in their eagerness, they knocked over a bucket of paint, which spilled everywhere, making a big mess. Lenny's heart sank. What had they done? Panic surged through him as he looked at the mess they had made. Charlie, as usual, wasn't sticking around to deal with the consequences. With a flap of his wings, he dashed out of the barn, leaving Lenny standing there, all alone, staring at the paint-covered floor. Lenny felt a wave of guilt. He hadn't meant to make a mess, but now it was too late. He had let his curiosity and desire for fun get the better of him. Unsure of what to do, he stood frozen in place until Benny, the brave sheepdog, appeared at the entrance of the barn. Benny had seen everything, and with a calm yet serious look, he watched as Lenny lowered his head in shame. Lenny knew he couldn't hide what had happened. It was time to face the consequences of his actions. With his head hanging low, Lenny slowly made his way back to Farmer Joe. He knew what he had to do. When he found Farmer Joe tending to the other animals, he approached him, his heart heavy with guilt. Lenny confessed everything to Farmer Joe. He explained how he had followed Charlie into the barn and made a mess without meaning to. He was ashamed and worried that Farmer Joe would be upset with him. But instead of being angry, Farmer Joe listened patiently. He appreciated that Lenny had come forward and told the truth. Farmer Joe explained to Lenny that everyone makes mistakes, but what matters most is being honest and making things right. Lenny nodded, determined to fix what he had done. With Farmer Joe's guidance, Lenny helped clean up the barn. Together they wiped away the spilled paint and tidied up the mess. As they worked, Lenny realized something important. Helping out wasn't so bad after all. In fact, it felt good to be responsible and to work together with Farmer Joe. Later that day, as the sun began to set, the animals gathered in the field. The farm was peaceful again, and Lenny felt a new sense of pride. He had learned an important lesson. While playing was fun, there was a time for everything. Being responsible and helping others was just as important, perhaps even more so. Maggie, the old cow, watched from the field, her eyes twinkling with approval. Lenny had grown a little wiser that day. He now understood that being part of the farm meant doing his share to keep it running smoothly. He had learned that even the smallest lamb could make a big difference. From that day on, Lenny never forgot the lesson he had learned. He still enjoyed playing, but he also found joy in helping out and being responsible. And so the farm continued to thrive, with Lenny the lamb always eager to lend a helping hoof whenever he could. And as for the barn, well, it stayed clean because Lenny knew better now.